a return to an apocalyptic demolition derby wasteland, another adventure inside a deadly neon video game, and the revisitation of a Halloween classic. All this and more awaits you with these movie sequels you may not have heard about. The first Predator film tore into theaters in 1987, launching a whole franchise that has endured across decades. And now, almost inevitably, a fifth film is on the horizon. The most recent installment, 2018's The Predator, was hardly a critical success, currently sitting at a dismal 33% on Rotten Tomatoes, but it still made enough money at the box office to justify yet another sequel.
Never knew how much I missed this, Dutch! You never were that smart.
Predator 5 will be helmed by 10 Cloverfield Lane director Dan Trachtenberg from a script penned by budding screenwriter Patrick Asen. Originally, the fifth Predator film was announced under the title Skulls, but the official title has since been confirmed as Prey. Each Predator installment thus far has focused on a group of people being hunted by a race of alien trophy hunters, and Prey seems like it will follow in that same tradition. This time, the story will be set 300 years in the past and center on the Comanche Nation, following a warrior named Naru, who will be played by Amber Midthunder. While the fifth Predator seemed to hit an unforeseen snag in the form of a lawsuit filed by the original film's writers Jim and John Thomas, that apparently didn't stop the movie from moving forward. Prey wrapped filming in September 2021 and is set to premiere on Hulu sometime in summer 2022. While Hocus Pocus failed to make much of a splash when it was first released in 1993, it has since gathered a significant following as a Halloween staple. The film follows a group of kids who accidentally resurrect a trio of witches on Halloween 300 years after their execution. The sisters set about stealing the souls of every child in Salem unless these intrepid heroes can stop them. While details on the sequel film remain scarce, original Hocus Pocus stars Bette Midler, Kathy Najimy, and Sarah Jessica Parker are set to return in the sequel, which will debut on Disney Plus in the fall of 2022. Some of the movie's most notable cast members include Doug Jones, reprising his role from the original, as well as Tony Hale, Hannah Waddingham, and Sam Richardson. Working from a script by Jen D'Angelo, Hocus Pocus 2 was originally set to be directed by Adam Shankman, but he was replaced in 2021 by comedy stalwart Anne Fletcher. According to an official synopsis for the film, Hocus Pocus 2 will follow three young women as they bring the Sanderson sisters back to modern-day Salem, forcing them to stop the three witches from wreaking havoc in the modern world. Before John Boyega was known for battling the First Order in Star Wars, he was fighting unsettling, monstrous aliens in the urban sci-fi adventure Attack the Block. Written and directed by Joe Cornish, the 2011 film starred Boyega as Moses, the leader of a teenage street gang that must rid their neighborhood of invading extraterrestrials. The sequel will reunite Boyega and Cornish, who's once again both writing and directing. This time, Boyega will also be acting as co-producer, in addition to reprising his role as Moses. Speaking to Deadline, Boyega said, "It's been a decade since Attack the Block was released, and so much has changed since then. I'm excited to see this heightened story return to the streets of London. Moses has remained one of my favorite characters to play, and bringing him back is a huge honor." Cornish echoed his enthusiasm, saying, "I'm thrilled we're officially announcing our return to the world of Attack the Block on the 10th anniversary of the film's release. I can't wait to work alongside John again, bringing audiences an even bigger slice of inner-city alien action." According to Cornish, filming on Attack the Block 2 is expected to start at some point in 2022, indicating that the movie might premiere as early as 2023. Within days of the simultaneous theatrical and HBO Max release of Dune, a sequel was officially greenlit with a release date set for October 20th, 2023. The decision to produce Dune Part 2 won't come as a shock to anyone who knows the novel or saw the first film, which ended at what seemed to be a pretty pivotal moment in the character arc of protagonist Paul Atreides. Dune began a sprawling tale of feuding households, political maneuvering, and religious intrigue, told through an impressive ensemble cast led by Timothée Chalamet. Of course, not all the central players in Dune survived until the end, but those that did are expected to reprise their roles in the sequel. It's also a given that Zendaya, whose character is only introduced toward the tail end of the original, will be playing a much bigger role in this installment. Also returning are director Denis Villeneuve and composer Hans Zimmer, the latter of whom recently joked in a tweet, "Thank goodness I have some music left." As for Villeneuve, the director clarified that he considers Dune Part 2 the same movie as Dune, rather than a traditional sequel, telling The Hollywood Reporter, "It's not a sequel where it's another episode or another story with the same characters. It actually has direct continuity to the first movie. It's the second part of the big, huge movie that I'm trying to do. Unlike the original, Part 2 will not debut on HBO Max, instead receiving an exclusive 45-day theatrical window." Apparently, this was a non-negotiable point for Villeneuve, who says that for him, the theatrical experience is at the very heart of the cinematic language.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
In 2015, Mad Max Fury Road reinvigorated the long-dormant Mad Max franchise, which began in 1979 with Mel Gibson in the title role. Fury Road offered a new spin on the post-apocalyptic tale, casting Tom Hardy as Max and shifting focus to Charlize Theron's rage-fueled imperator Furiosa. Fury Road also wowed audiences and critics alike, with many considering it one of the best action films of all time. A sequel then seemed inevitable. Sure enough, 2 follow-up films are in the works. One is a direct sequel, while the other is a prequel centered around a younger Furiosa. The sequel, which has been given the working title Mad Max: The Wasteland, was reportedly greenlit by Warner Bros. In early 2020 and will follow Hardy's Max Rokitansky. Meanwhile, Furiosa will bring back the title character in question, though Theron won't be making an appearance in the movie. Director George Miller has said that, much as he loved Theron's performance in Fury Road, he doesn't have enough faith in de-aging technology to allow Theron to reprise her role for the prequel. Instead, the younger Furiosa will be played by Anya Taylor-Joy, who will be joined by MCU star Chris Hemsworth. Emmy-winning Watchmen actor Yahya Abdul-Mateen II was also set to star in the sequel, but later departed the project due to scheduling conflicts. Instead, Tom Burke will be stepping into the role originally intended for Abdul-Mateen. Miller hasn't yet revealed who Hemsworth and Burke will be playing in Furiosa, but the characters have likely existed in the director's head since before the previous film, as he and co-writer Nick Lathouris developed origin stories for every character while prepping Fury Road. The Wasteland is set to release on June 23, 2023, while Furiosa will tear into theaters on May 27, 2024. The Star Trek franchise has been a shining gem in Paramount's crown for decades, and there are a number of directors the popular franchise could head next. Moving forward right now is a 4th Star Trek film in the current series, which would bring back the cast of 2009 Star Trek and its sequels, minus Anton Yelchin, who was tragically killed in an accident in 2016. The studio is also considering Trek films from The Revenant scribe Mark L. Smith, which was originally intended to be directed by Quentin Tarantino, as well as one from Fargo and Legion creator Noah Hawley. While Hawley's project has been moved to the back burner by Paramount, Star Trek IV is reportedly full steam ahead. WandaVision director Matt Shakman has signed on to helm the project, working off a script from Lindsay Beer and Geneva Robertson-Dworet, making this the first Star Trek film to be penned by women. Star Trek IV is set to hit theaters on December 22nd, 2023. Although rumor has it that a 3rd Sherlock Holmes film has always been part of the Warner Brothers plan, things have been a little slow recently, since Robert Downey Jr. has spent the past decade anchoring the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Saving the world every couple years is a draining gig, and Downey's superhero commitments kept him from being able to take on the detective role for a 3rd time. Now that Downey has finally exited the MCU for good, however, he finally has the time to team up with Jude Law's Watson for one more case. The 3rd Sherlock Holmes film will be helmed by Rocketman director Dexter Fletcher, a departure from the first 2 films, which were both directed by Guy Ritchie. Meanwhile, the script comes from Narcos creator Chris Brancato. While Sherlock Holmes 3 was originally scheduled to release on Christmas Day 2020, it's since been delayed due to the uncertainty caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. After having its theatrical release bumped from 2020 to December 21, 2021, Fletcher remarked in the fall of 2020 that the sequel is sitting in limbo until things get back on track. While the film obviously won't make its Christmas 2021 release at the moment, it's suspected that Sherlock Holmes 3 will hit theaters sometime in 2022. Disney's live-action reimaginings of their animated classics have proven to be a home run at the box office, and the live-action Aladdin was no exception, bringing in over $1 billion globally. So it comes at no surprise that it's getting a follow-up, although this one likely won't be modeled directly off the animated version of the animated sequel. Few details are known about the Aladdin sequel, although stars Will Smith, Mina Massoud, and Naomi Scott are all expected to reprise their respective roles as Genie, Aladdin, and Jasmine. Guy Ritchie is also expected to return to the director's chair, working off a script from John Gattens and Andrea Berloff. As for the plot, it's still very much an unknown, although it's possible that the sequel could take the form of an adaptation of another folktale from 1001 Nights. Aside from that, though, everyone's still very much in the dark on this one. Before Bad Boys for Life had even hit theaters in early 2020, Sony was already prepping the fourth installment of the Bad Boys franchise. Bad Boys 4 was announced in January 2020 as a follow-up to the first three films in the hit buddy cop action franchise, which first kicked off in 1995 with the original Bad Boys. Starring Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, that original movie follows two Miami detectives as they investigate a case of stolen heroin while protecting the witness to a murder. Bad Boys was successful enough to earn a sequel, which was released in 2003. The third movie, Bad Boys for Life, catches up with detectives Lowry and Burnett 17 years later as they investigate a string of murders with connections to Lowry's past.
Bad boys, bad boys. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when we come back?
No, never.
No plot details have yet been revealed about the fourth film, but the script is being penned by Chris Bremner, who also worked on Bad Boys for Life. While nothing is official yet, it's also safe to assume that Smith and Lawrence will both return for Part 4. Here's hoping it doesn't take another 17 years to release. Despite having a pretty definitive ending, the Oscar-nominated Queen flick Bohemian Rhapsody may be getting a sequel. The first film portrays the early days of the iconic group, from its unsteady beginnings in 1970 when Farouk Bulsara first joined, through the next few decades as Bulsara changes his name to Freddie Mercury, rises to fame, and eventually splits up the group in the early 80s. Bohemian Rhapsody ends with the band reuniting for Queen's performance at Live Aid in 1985, before explaining how Mercury died of AIDS in 1991. There's no word yet on what the plot of Bohemian Rhapsody 2 could be, whether it would delve into the last 6 years of Mercury's life, or whether it would follow the other members of the band after his death. In a post on Instagram Live in 2021, Queen guitarist Brian May said, "It's going to be hard to follow Bohemian Rhapsody, as none of us could have predicted how massive that was going to be. But yes, we are thinking maybe it could happen, but it would have to be a great script. It's going to take a while to figure that out." But as far as whether the band has interest in a sequel, May said, "We are looking at it. Yeah, we have been looking at ideas." While 2021's Cruella was set up to serve as a prequel to Disney's animated film 101 Dalmatians, by the time the end credits rolled, it was clear that there was plenty more of Cruella's story to tell. Sure enough, Cruella 2 is now in the works, which will see Emma Stone returning to the role of Estella and her ruthless alter ego, Cruella de Vil. Also coming back is director Craig Gillespie and writer Tony McNamara, although none of Stone's fellow Cruella cast members are yet confirmed for the sequel. The first film saw aspiring fashion designer and petty criminal Estella scheming her way to the top of the fashion industry and usurping the reign of reigning fashion queen Baroness von Hellman. By the end of the film, Cruella has claimed the Baroness's empire as her own and fully embraced her dark and semi-villainous persona. Yet she still has a great love of dogs, particularly Dalmatians, which begs the question of just how she transforms into the kind of person who wants to skin them for her coats. Perhaps we'll find out when Cruella 2 eventually struts into theaters. Producer and director Phil Lord has said that the team behind the Jump Street movies is putting a pin in 23 Jump Street, which would mark the third outing for Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill. However, the studio is moving forward with a spin-off of the comedy franchise, this time focusing on a female crime-fighting duo. The first two Jump Street films follow a pair of male cops who go undercover at educational institutions in order to ferret out elusive drug suppliers. Presumably, the plot of Jump Street Now for Her Pleasure would be much in the same vein. It will also probably exist in the same universe as the existing Jump Street films, functioning as a continuation of the story started by officers Morton Schmidt and Greg Jenko in the first movies. This time, the stars taking the fight to the streets will be Tiffany Haddish and Zendaya, who will most likely be playing undercover narcotics officers similar to Tatum and Hill's characters in the first two movies. After directing the first two Jump Street films, Chris Miller and Phil Lord will be stepping aside for this third outing, with Rodney Rothman taking the director's chair. Rothman will also be collaborating collaborating on the script with Bob's Burgers writers Lizzie and Wendy Molyneux. Rothman previously helped write the screenplay for 22 Jump Street and co-directed Lord & Miller's acclaimed animated film Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Sadly, there's been no word yet on what the plot will entail or whether Schmidt or Jenko might make an appearance. Sylvester Stallone and the Expendables 4 have been engaging in a will-they-won't-they dance for a few years now, but it's finally official. The muscle-bound gang is getting back together again, with Scott Waugh directing and Spencer Cohen writing the script. In addition to Stallone, the Expendables franchise has been a veritable who's who of current and former action superstars, featuring everyone from Mel Gibson to Bruce Willis to Jean-Claude Van Damme to Chuck Norris and many, many, many more.
I'm back.
This time around, we know that Stallone and Jason Statham are coming back, as are Dolph Lundgren and UFC legend Randy Couture. A number of other stars, including Megan Fox and 50 Cent, have also signed on to the film in undisclosed roles. Plus, the former holder of the World's Strongest Man title, Eddie Hall, has personally been offered a role by Stallone himself. Hall will play a villain, as will martial arts star Iko Uwais, who will apparently be facing off against Statham's character in the film. Of course, these are still the early days for the project, so don't be surprised to see more Expendables veterans return, and a few other fresh faces too. After the massive commercial success of Disney's photorealistic remake of The Lion King, it seemed like only a matter of time until a sequel was announced. However, the director taking the directorial reins from Jon Favreau for The Lion King 2 is probably not a name most people would have expected to hear: Barry Jenkins. This Academy Award-winning writer and director is best known for creating critically acclaimed dramas with strong racial themes, including Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk. Jenkins won't be writing The Lion King 2, but he'll be working from a script by Jeff Nathanson, who also penned the first Lion King. While no specific details of the plot have been revealed, we know that it will act as a prequel to the first film following Mufasa and Scar in their younger years. It will also introduce a number of new characters, though who they are and what animals they might be has yet to be confirmed. Although The Lion King 2 seems like an outlier in Jenkins' filmography, the director sounds excited about working on the sequel for Disney, saying, "Having the opportunity to work with Disney on expanding this magnificent tale of friendship, love, and legacy while furthering my work chronicling the lives and souls of folk within the African diaspora is a dream come true." Some films get theatrical or streaming sequels, while others get turned into TV series. But if you're the Nicolas Cage series National Treasure, you get both. The long-awaited threequel to 2004's National Treasure and 2007's National Treasure Book of Secrets seems to finally be moving forward at Disney, tapping Bad Boys 4 scribe Chris Brumner to write the script. But that's not all. National Treasure will also find new life as a Disney Plus TV series, which producer Jerry Bruckheimer says is currently in the development process. While National Treasure 3 is expected to reunite the cast from the first two films, including Cage himself, the TV series will follow a young woman named Jessie, who embarks on an adventure to uncover a lost Pan-American treasure. Serving as one of the executive producers for the series is John Turteltaub, who helmed both of the first two films and is expected to direct the third. Although the Disney Plus series is currently further along in the development pipeline, with production set to start in early 2022, Bruckheimer says he's hopeful that both projects will ultimately come to fruition, delivering a veritable treasure trove of new National Treasure adventures. With the open-ended conclusion of the 2020 Charlize Theron action hit The Old Guard, it seemed as though the film was begging for a sequel. Sure enough, The Old Guard 2 is in the works for Netflix. The sequel will bring back star Charlize Theron as Andy, the millennia-old mercenary who, in the first film, realized her immortality was finally beginning to wane. Also returning will be Marwan Kenzari and Luca Marinelli, who played Joe and Nikki respectively, the life partners for centuries who also act as part of Andy's group. Production is set to start in the first quarter of 2022 with Victoria Mahoney attached to direct, and while no plot details have been released yet, the first film set up some intriguing possibilities. After betraying the other members of their group and being punished with a century of exile, the devious Booker comes face to face with Quinn, played by Veronica No. Quinn is a former member of their immortal squad, who they had thought was lost forever at the bottom of the ocean.
I feel her pain. Her rage. She feels crazy.
Although Quinn used to be Andy's closest ally, centuries of drowning over and over might just have changed her tune. This intriguing story thread will hopefully be followed up when The Old Guard 2 hits Netflix sometime in the future. Mere days after the 2021 Chris Pratt sci-fi action film The Tomorrow War dropped on Amazon Prime, Amazon Studios and Skydance were already talking about a sequel. The first film centers around Pratt's character, who's recruited as a soldier to travel to the future and fight war to save humanity. The sequel would reportedly bring back Pratt and the first movie's main cast, along with director Chris McKay and writer Zach Dean. The Tomorrow War earned an enthusiastic reaction from Amazon Prime subscribers, who viewed it enough for it to debut as the #1 film across streaming platforms over the July 4th holiday weekend. So it's no wonder that the studios would be eagerly circling a sequel, although no specific plans are confirmed yet. And while we don't yet know what the story of a potential The Tomorrow War 2 would be, it will hopefully be just as thrilling and action-packed as the first film. The long-running Insidious franchise is getting a 5th installment, and this time, franchise star Patrick Wilson will be settling into the director's chair. The first 2 films follow a couple whose young son is haunted by otherworldly beings, while the 3rd and 4th are prequels that focus on the psychic who aided the heroes of the first 2 films. Insidious 5 will follow the son from the original movie, now a decade older, as he heads off to college. In a statement regarding his directorial duties on the 5th movie, Wilson said, "I'm honored and thrilled to be at the helm of the next Insidious installment, which will provide an amazing chance to unpack everything the Lamberts went through a decade ago, as well as deal with the consequences of their choices. Into the further we go." The further that Wilson is referring to is the demonic realm that houses the entities which haunt the characters in the Insidious films. The script for Insidious 5 was penned by Scott Teems and based on a story by Lee Winnell, who wrote the first 4 films in the franchise. Although the original Tron wasn't much of a hit when it was released in 1982, the movie developed a growing cult following in the decades that followed, which ultimately proved big enough to warrant a sequel. Tron Legacy premiered in 2010 starring Garrett Hedlund, Olivia Wilde, and original Tron star Jeff Bridges. Tron Legacy did well enough to earn a sequel of its own, and It Runs in the Family writer Jesse Wigatow was brought aboard in 2012 to pen the script. However, Disney reportedly couldn't figure out how to best approach a new installment in the Tron series, and so the project was put on hold. Now, the 3rd Tron film appears to be moving forward again, with Lion director Garth Davis coming aboard to direct and Jared Leto attached to star. While Davis is not known for the type of big-budget CGI-heavy filmmaking that a Tron film would require, insiders say that he fought hard for the job, eventually convincing Disney executives that he was the right person to bring the grid back to life. As for Leto, he may have inadvertently revealed the title for the 3rd Tron film in a now-deleted tweet confirming his casting, referring to the film as Tron Ares. Although the project has yet to receive a green light, Davis and Leto's involvement may signal a light at the end of the tunnel for this long-gestating threequel. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.